On January 30th, 2026, the Department of Justice released the largest document dump in the history of the Epstein case. Over 3 million pages, 180,000 images, dropped onto the public internet at once. Everyone started searching. Who flew on the plane? Who visited the island? Who was in the room? Then Joe Rogan's name showed up in the files. The internet exploded. But Rogan got in front of it immediately. And what he explained is important, not because of what it says about him, but because of what it reveals about how the whole system worked. Back in 2017, a physicist named Lawrence Krauss, one of Rogan's podcast guests, had passed along a message. Epstein had heard Rogan was funny and wanted an introduction. Rogan Googled the name, found the 2008 conviction for soliciting a minor, and shut it down immediately.
Yeah, I'm in the files for not going, because Jeffrey Epstein was trying to meet with me.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah.
Aren't you glad?
Yeah, but I would have never went anyway. It's like, it's not even a possibility that I would ever went.
But
especially after I Googled him. I was like, what the f***?
One Google search, one refusal. That kept him out of those files for the right reasons. But while he was confirming his own story, he found something that had nothing to do with him. Something that went far deeper than Epstein himself. And his reaction when he came up for air wasn't relief, it was one word: dread. Rogan, after reading through the documents, said something that reframed the entire conversation.
Is there a Jeffrey Epstein right now that we don't know about? There's a million of them.
His answer: a million of them. That is not hyperbole from someone who panics easily. That is a measured observation from a man who has sat across from presidents, billionaires, and everyone in between. And it reflects what the documented record in those files actually shows. That Epstein was not a founder. He was a node in a network, and that network had people above him. Two names appear repeatedly in the unredacted sections of those files. Both of them tell you something critical about how this system actually works, and why it did not die when Epstein did. Les Wexner, the billionaire founder and former CEO of Victoria's Secret, the largest lingerie brand in the world. Politically connected, socially untouchable. Here is what the files show. Wexner didn't just know Epstein. He built Epstein. He gave Epstein full power of attorney over his financial empire. He handed Epstein his $77 million Manhattan mansion, the same property where investigators later found evidence of systematic abuse. He gave Epstein a key to every powerful room in the world. The FBI labeled Wexner a co-conspirator. They attempted to bring him in for an interview. That attempt was never completed because Epstein died first. And when Epstein died, that thread went cold. When the 3 million files dropped, Wexner's name appeared in over 4,000 documents, correctly identified. Every location, every document, except one. The one document that specifically labeled him as a co-conspirator. That was the one where his name stayed blacked out. Congressman Thomas Massie caught it live and confronted the Justice Department on the record.
Able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document.
Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
40 minutes. Someone in the Department of Justice made a deliberate choice to hide the co-conspirator label from a billionaire's name. They reversed it only when they got caught on camera. Wexner's public position has consistently been that he was deceived, that he cut ties when he learned who Epstein really was. Decades of shared properties, shared finances, and shared access tell a different story. The second name is Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, a Dubai billionaire, former chairman of DP World, one of the largest port operating companies on the planet. Shipping infrastructure in over 70 countries, connected to international governments, trade deals, and royal networks across the Middle East. His name appears in the Epstein files over 5,000 times, years of correspondence, emails about explicit content, and one email from 2009 in which Epstein writes to bin Sulayem, "I loved the torture video." Bin Sulayem's response is completely casual. He mentions he's in China and will be in the US in May, like they're scheduling a meeting. When his name was finally unredacted publicly, bin Sulayem resigned from DP World. No charges, no arrest, no investigation. He walked free because touching him means disrupting international shipping routes, diplomatic agreements, and trade relationships that governments depend on. The pattern is not subtle. The files protected the powerful. The victims' names, according to documented congressional testimony, were accidentally released while the names of the men above Epstein stayed hidden.
Is an email that was sent by the victim's lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name.
They protected the powerful, they exposed the victims. Howard Lutnick is currently the United States Secretary of Commerce. He went on camera and told a story about how deeply uncomfortable Jeffrey Epstein made him, how he and his wife walked out of a room and decided they would never be near the man again.
Right kind of massage. Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or even philanthropy. That guy was there, I wasn't going.
In the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. Then the emails came out. Documented correspondence showing Lutnick coordinating a visit to Epstein's private island with his children. 8 children total. The youngest 7 years old, a sitting cabinet member, children on the island. After his public statement about never being in the room with Epstein again, and the Department of Justice declared the review closed. No new charges. This is the part that connects everything. A top DOJ official stood at a podium and announced the Epstein review was over. Kash Patel, director of the FBI, appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast and stated there were no blackmail videos, nothing of note beyond what had already been addressed, while members of Congress were simultaneously describing photographic evidence of crimes they had personally reviewed.
2 photos, please put the photos back up. These 2 photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew.
These 2 photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew. The Senate voted 51-49 against an amendment that would have forced the release of all remaining Epstein-related files. 2 million documents are still being withheld from Congress and the public. When that vote happened, Rogan's reaction captured what a lot of people were feeling.
How many senators just voted against releasing this, man? It's just it's like there's two votes that are happening. The UFO disclosure thing, they keep voting against that.
Yeah.
And the Epstein list, they keep voting against that.
Right.
What? And also, politically, it can't serve you to talk about a bad list. The list of people who said, let's protect people who like have done horrific shit to kids. You don't want to be on that list, but whatever's on that list must be so destabilizing.
The people with the most to lose from full disclosure are the same people with the power to prevent it. That is the documented reality of where this investigation stands. Virginia Giuffre, the most prominent survivor in the Epstein case, the woman whose testimony and photographs made the case against multiple powerful figures, died by suicide in March 2025. She had posted publicly about threats and about her fear of powerful people connected to the network. Her death came before the Epstein files were fully released and before the accountability she had spent years pursuing arrived. She had been preparing a memoir. Portions were released posthumously. The full picture she intended to put on the record died with her. Sound of Freedom. The film that documented exactly how trafficking networks operate based on the verified true story of Tim Ballard sat on a shelf for 5 years. Every major studio was told to stay away. When it finally released independently, Mainstream media called it conspiracy content. The public showed up anyway and made it a $250 million film, outperforming Mission Impossible on its opening weekend. That is the blueprint. Suppress the documentation, dismiss the survivors, close the investigation, and when the public finds out anyway, declare the case closed before the full picture emerges. Rogan described the honeypot model precisely.
I bet it was a real good honeypot where there's a lot of sophisticated intellectual discourse. You got a lot of brilliant people there. You've got great music, you know. You got like famous people are hanging around too.
Yeah.
It seems really cool. And then, if there's blackmail, the blackmail is like snuck into all this.
Yeah.
Snuck in, come to the room with the cameras. And next thing you know, you're doing cocaine.
I bet it was a real good honeypot. Sophisticated intellectual discourse, brilliant people, great music, famous people hanging around. It seems really cool. And then if there's blackmail, the blackmail is snuck into all this. Come to the room with the cameras. The blueprint doesn't require Epstein. It requires the network above him. And that network's, with Wexner's money, with bin Sulayem's international access, with the political cover that kept prosecutors quiet, has had no reason to stop. Here is what the documented record shows. The co-conspirator label on Les Wexner's name was hidden in the most important document release in the case's history, and only restored when a congressman caught it on camera in real time. Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem resigned from one of the world's largest shipping companies after 5,000 documented references in the Epstein files and walked free without a single charge. Howard Lutnick's documented emails contradict his public statement directly. The Senate voted to keep 2 million documents hidden. The DOJ declared the review closed. Joe Rogan read those files and came away with one word. Epstein is dead, the network isn't. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you next time.